Good morning, this is Mrs. Yule. I'm doing a quick video on ratios and proportion, which is your next topic in the Future Cities project. And after you've done fractions, ratios and proportions should seem easy. And let's take a look at them. So a ratio is really just a fraction. I'm comparing two different things, and there's three different ways I can write it. I can write it as A to B, A with these double dots B, or I can write it as a fraction. And usually we see it as a fraction, but I want you to know that all three of those mean the same thing. Here's another way of looking at a ratio. I can talk about part to part. So if I have this complete shape, I could talk about the part to part. I have 4 compared to 6. I can compare a part to a whole, so I have 4/10. So a ratio shows the relative sizes are of 2 or more like values. So a ratio, again, is just comparing two different quantities using division. 3 to 4 as a fraction, 3 to 4 with the word, or 3 with the double dots to the 4. All of those are the same thing. A rate is a ratio with two quantities with different units, and we talk about this all the time. 60 miles for 2 hours. We could talk about 3 feet to so many inches. And a rate with a denominator of 1 is called a unit rate. Sometimes that becomes a big deal. Proportion. Being in proportion means that two ratios or fractions are equal. So really I am just going to set two ratios equal to each other. So a ratio is just a fraction, and a proportion are two fractions set equal to each other. Here's another way of looking at proportions. Equivalent fractions or ratios are in proportion because they have equal value. We say they're equivalent fractions. And I can also write them as a table. So notice for these, this is the proportional table. For the water, I multiplied everything by 2. Lemon juice, I multiplied everything by 2. Sugar, I multiplied everything by 2 also. So in this table, all of the terms have been doubled. So this is proportional ratios for this particular lemonade drink that we have. Again, the key idea with a proportion, it's an equation stating that two ratios are equivalent. So that's a fancier way of saying that. Notice it's an equation because I have an equal sign. So if I say it as numbers, 2/3 is equal to 4/6. We can also say it as variables too. I would say A over B is equal to C/D. Now, if I want to find a ratio, just a quick example, there are 45 males and 60 females in a subway. The subway car travels 2.5 miles in 5 minutes. Find the ratio of males to females. Find the speed of the subway car. So pause this for a second. Go ahead and write those out. So when I did the one for the speed of the subway car, well, actually it'll be interesting to see how you did it. So go ahead and do it and then start this again. And I'm going to be doing it on the whiteboard. So let me switch to the camera for the whiteboard. Okay. If I look back at the problem, I have 45 to 60. Both of these are divisible by 5. So this is going to give me 9/12. 9 and 12 are both divisible by 3. So this is going to give me 3/4. If you divided by 15 to begin with, you would have gotten the same answer. So when I look at this, this is females to males, there are 3/4. For B, I had 2.5 miles per 5 minutes. What they wanted to do was do a unit rate. So they wanted to know how far did you go in 1 minute. And I put miles both places. This should be 5 minutes. So if I divide both the top and the bottom by 5, because I want a unit rate, I am going to get 0.5 miles per 1 minute. Or this would give me 30 miles per hour. Usually we do things in miles per hour. This one wanted a unit rate, so 0.5 miles in 1 minute. So whoops, picked the wrong one. Let me go back to the smartboard. Okay, and here is the answer, 0.5 miles per minute. We were right there. Oh, it was males on top. Sorry, I think I said females. So there were 3 males per 4 females. And we got them both right. Yay, I always like to check. Our ratios are proportions. So determine whether these ratios form a proportion. Tell whether 6/4 and 8/12 form a proportion. So really what I want to do for these is I want to simplify both. 6 and 4 are both divisible by 2, and 8 and 12 are both divisible by 4. So let's go ahead and do this one. So for this one, I want to know is 6/4 equal to 8/12? I'm going to reduce both or simplify each fraction. 6/4, 6 and 4 are both divisible by 2, so I can make an equivalent fraction. That would be 3/2. And if I have 8/12, 8 and 12 are both divisible by 4. So this is going to be 2/3. So 3/2 is not equal to 2/3. This is not a proportion. So really when I do these, what I'm going to look for is the simplified fractions and see if they're the same. So this was a big no. And here it is for you. They do not form a proportion. This one I'm not going to do, but I want to talk about it. So when I look at a table, especially if a table is a linear function, it is going to be proportional. So really, I'm just going to compare each x to each y, and I'm going to get the same thing every time. Notice when I do 1/2 to 3, I get 1/6. 3/2 to 9, I get 1/6. And 2 to 12, I get 1/6. So x and y are proportional here. I just find ratios and I check them. When I have a proportion to solve this, and most of you are really good at this, I use cross products. So this one, if A over B is equal to C over D, then I know what has to be true is AD is going to equal BC. So here I'm going to multiply across. So AD will equal BC. And that is how you are going to solve proportions. Here, identify whether they are proportions. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have put this one in. This one is just saying that I'm comparing rates again. I'm going to say, are they the same? The unit rates are not equivalent. So I can check that. And this one I did, but it didn't really have to do with solving proportions. Here we're going to solve proportions. So if I have 3/2 is equal to x/8, the way that I'm going to solve that is to do it as a cross product. So make sure you write the problem down, try and do it, and then come back and I'll do it right now. So for the first one, simply 3/2 is equal to x/8. I'm going to multiply across. So this gives me 3 times 8 is equal to 2 times x. 3 times 8 is 24. So I have 24 is equal to 2x. I divide both sides by 2, and I get 12 is equal to x. Or I could read that as x is equal to 12. So this was just a quick review for you on how to do proportions and how to solve them using cross properties. Hope you're having a good day and be successful on the worksheets. Look forward to hearing from you.